What's going on, everyone? F1 Pit Stop here. Today we got a juicy one for you. We're going to be talking about the PitStop Podcast, the little bit of the beef slash, trouble that they've come into based off of a podcast episode they did with a channel called Screaming Meal. Now, if you follow F1 on Twitter or anything like that, that's how I came across all this drama. The F1 Twitter was kind of going crazy with all this. Now, most people probably know of the PitStop Podcast. It's pretty big with, 62,000 subscribers, and they've had phenomenal guests like Matt and Tommy, formerly with WTF1, Will Buxton, even, Crofty was on there. So they've gotten some really, really cool guests, as well as some F2 drivers to be on their podcast, and they've created this great thing. And I don't think it's been going for very long. Them, like me, got into F1 through Drive to Survive. So the fact that I saw this tweet come up, which says, do you know how many people you have to piss off to go from a 4.9 to 3.9 average in less than 24 hours from F1 Tammy, at F1 Tammy on Twitter? A little shout out to them. And I believe that the rating has even gone lower now. And of course, they're looking at Spotify. So I think that this tweet thread kind of sums up exactly what happened and what the controversy is. And then stay tuned to later in the video, because we're going to talk about what they said and if they were actually right or if they were in the wrong in saying it. So let's take a look at this. Obviously, you see the tweet of their overall they were at like 4.9 stars out of 5, an incredible rating. Go down to in the 3s, and then of course everyone, including me, was thinking, okay, well, what did they do? So here's basically a good summary. They said that fans don't care about the racing and that most fans don't even watch the races. According to them, fans only care about what the drivers do outside of the cars. And then at F1 Tammy says, yeah, and what's worse is it wasn't just a random comment. They were actually saying this is to actual F2 drivers who they had as guests on their podcast, and said they didn't know who they were before that day. You might think, whoa, this isn't really that big of a deal hearing that, but it's F1 fans and F1 Twitter, so of course everything's going to be a bit bigger of a deal. That's why I think they need F1 racing, or at least an F1 event, to be televised every weekend so that people don't focus on dumb drama like this. If there were actual F1 events, like even just kart racing or a race every weekend for people to watch, like most sports have, then I don't think drama like this would happen, because people would be too preoccupied with the actual F1 drivers. But so we're going to take a look at a few things they said. And first I want to touch on the part where they're clearly in the wrong, which is that they said to the F2 drivers that they didn't even really know who they were before that day. Obviously my channel only has a little over 3,000 subscribers, but I feel like if you're going to be put in a position where you're going to be interviewing people, or even just on a panel with people, whatever you want to call it, you want to do some research. It does come off a little cocky and arrogant. Obviously, they've had success, and I think they deserve it, obviously, with the amount of people that watch their channel. So I could understand how it's a little easy to get complacent and think, okay, well, we'll just wing this one. We don't have to prepare as much as we normally do, or something along those lines. So I can see where they went wrong, but this one, you're in the wrong for that. You should know who you're going to be talking to, and at least a little background knowledge on it. Come on. Now let's get to maybe the more controversial point, the more debatable point, if anything, which is where they said fans don't care about the racing. Most fans don't even watch the races. According to them, fans only care about what the drivers do outside the car. This is somewhat fair, I think. I think that, I consider there to be maybe 3 types of fans, 2 to 3 types of fans. You have the people who are really into like the technical side, like, oh, a car added this, which means it gains this many tenths or loses this speed in the drag force, and the reduction, all this, technical terms about racing and motorsport. That's one type of fan. And you better believe that they're going to watch every single thing, and they're going to pay attention to all the little details that come out about, car change or the Tech Tuesdays that F1 puts out on their F1 TV, and I would consider those to be extremely hardcore fans. However, to be a fan, you don't have to be into all that technical stuff. I find it interesting, but I'm not really into it. Now, I watch all the practices and the qualifying and the races, and I don't even follow, the drivers really on social media or anything along those lines. But again, I'm not really into that technical side of it either. I just think it's really cool to watch. When I watch Drive to Survive, you kind of get invested into these drivers, and then the driver changes throughout the seasons and how the cars either upgrade or downgrade compared to the rest of the field throughout the season. So I do consider myself to be one of those fans that really does watch the races. However, I'm not going to, get into all the technicality of everything. And I think those people are still fans. But here's the thing. The third category I would say is that you also have fans where they just treat the drivers like celebrities. You get really more invested into the drivers themselves and their lives than the sport itself. And I think you see this with celebrities of all categories and of all caliber. That's why with WTF1, remember when Matt and Tommy left, there was a huge drop off because people became more invested in them, their personalities, their life than, the channel of WTF1. So in that regard, I would say that third category of fans, they're not fans of racing. They're just fans of Formula One drivers. I don't think that's too controversial to say. I think that makes absolute sense. And the Pit Stop boys are taking huge, they've taken a huge blowback as their rating across iTunes and Spotify has gone way down. So real tricky. I also think people are a little upset with the way that they kind of nonchalantly said these things and weren't taking it seriously. But I think that the content of what you're saying makes much more of a difference than how you say it. So that's kind of the whole deal. We'll see if not the F1 Pit Stop, that's me, but the PitStop Podcast decides to put out a statement or a short video or something kind of explaining their position. And if they do, we'll take a look at that. So if you don't want to miss anything, don't want to miss any F1 content, please consider subscribing and let me know in the comments what you all think about this kind of whole drama. Do you care? Is it even a big deal? What fan category are you? The technical, the just watches it but doesn't get into that, and then maybe just a fan of the drivers themselves? I want to know. I want to hear from you. So thank you so much for watching. Catch you next video.